For years, Gina Nagano was an innovator behind the House of Wolf and has been playing an instrumental role in not only helping support the establishment of First Nation-led community safety programs, but also so much more. Formerly a member of the RCMP, Gina is now a professional consultant helping guide communities in Yukon and British Columbia, and has seen firsthand how well-organized programs can not only benefit people, but keep people safe, create jobs, and lead to better outcomes for everyone involved. Joining me to talk about her business, her inspiration, and the opportunities and challenges is entrepreneur Gina Nagano. Welcome to the show, Gina. How are you doing today?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Grand Chief Peter Johnson, and thank you for this wonderful invitation today. And first and foremost, I want to acknowledge this traditional territory of the Kwalendon First Nation to Onkwatchin Council. And it's amazing today, here we are, that we can actually acknowledge our traditional territories. And a big shout out and a happy birthday, 50th anniversary to the Together Today for Our Children Tomorrow. You know, the trailblazers, the people that went to Ottawa to lobby for us, who are now our elders. Thank you very much, because as a result of your hard work, I am sitting here today, and many of our many youths that are also here today. You did it. It was successful, and I'm just very honored to sit here and take this to the future.
For sure. And when I think about entrepreneur, you are a model, Gina. Not only have you invested your own personal money in many things, but also supported people in their economic endeavors. For all the listeners out in Radioland, on Facebook, and also here live at the Kwalendon, can you talk a little bit about who you are and why the attraction to money?
Oh, money.
Because really at the end of the line, it's all about money. So
yeah, well, I think, you know what, I love that line. It's all about money, but really, for me, it's about saving lives, and it's about giving people and young people opportunities. That's what I like to say. And I just want to say, myself, I'm Gina Nagano. I'm Trundukwitchin from Dawson City, born and raised, and I spent the first part of my career, as you said, Peter, as 21 years as a police officer, and you think about social justice. Was that really social justice? No. And I shifted, and really my passion behind all of that was to be an entrepreneur, to be a business person. But I had to get through my first career, as my dad said, then I can do what I want. But the exciting thing was, when I actually started when I was 26 years old in Dawson City. I was still a police officer, and I wanted to accompany a resource industry, Loki Gold at the time, and they wanted to put they wanted to develop residential to accommodate their camp and the number of people coming into the community. So I went in and I was 26. I thought, I'm going to develop this big, huge residential trailer park. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had to do a sustainability study and And 26 years old, $20,000 later, it never happened. But, it was the experience. And it was really cool because the late Peter Jenkins, he kind of mentored me through this process, and he always said, don't tell me what I can't do. He says, tell me what I can do. And I've always sort of carried that forward into the work that I do. And community economic development is really important to me, because that's what I talk about today. And how do I do that? I channel that through safe communities, Peter. And I have no post-secondary education. I've got 21 years in policing. I did some schooling, but what I did at the age around 50 is I applied to go to Cape Breton University through a partnership program at the time with Yukon College to do my master's in community economic development, because I knew there was a connection to the healthiness of our community and economic development. And it's really good that when our elders went out and negotiated those agreements under the Self-Government Agreements, Chapter 22, if I believe,
yes,
that is so vital, so important to move the healthiness and well-being of our communities forward. If we don't have economic development, then what do we have for our future? Because we need to, as self-governing First Nations, need to take back that independence. We were self-governing in our traditional ways. It was taken away, and we need to bring that back, but in a modern way as well, acknowledging and respecting our past and how we move forward. So what I did was I went to school and I did my master's. No post-secondary education. I was intimidated. But what I found that through life experience, I was able to write those papers, and I wrote papers because it was the experience that I had. And I put myself in a place to learn about how to move forward in economic development. So I was on a board of directors for Chief Isaac, which is our business arm for our First Nation government. I sat as a director, and I moved into chairing Chief Isaac, which is our development corporation that oversees our fuel industry, our security industry, our catering industry, a number of businesses. So I had to learn. I had to learn and understand how this moved forward, and also in terms of community economic development. But one of the things that I noticed that in our communities is that I call this, and one day I'm going to finish my schooling, because I never did, because I was too busy campaigning. At the
helping
time,
other people,
helping other people, and I couldn't attend those classes. I was so tired, and I had to focus on the importance of politics as well, and because that also helps us get through and move forward on these economic gaps. And I looked at this and I go, okay, one of the things I need to do is understand what is an economic gap. And it's something I'm going to write in my paper. It's called the Community Economic Gap, Peter, and that's what we need to fill. And on one side of it, when you look at in our communities, our people are still hurting. There's still trauma. There's still crisis. There's things that are happening in many of our Indigenous communities across Canada, and we're stuck. We need that leverage to move forward on this community economic gap. So our people here on one side, we're trauma, we're crisis. We are caught up in historical impacts, colonization. On the other side of the gap we have is resource industry, economic development corporations. We have some wealthy First Nations, and I'm not just talking in Yukon, but across Canada. But how do we, as a community, move along the economic gap so we can be part of this economic sustainability? A lot of the resource industries, even our own development corporations, are moving so fast and going forward that they forget about our people that are still hurting and healing. Mm-hmm. This is really interesting because 10 years ago, I had the very fortunate opportunity. And then the then Minister McLean had asked me to come up to Kwalndun to work within their community. They were in a hard way at the time, dealing with the crisis, dealing with the trauma. And the lens I looked at is we have to embed safety into that community first. So safety provides that foundation of healing. It's like anybody else. In order for you to heal as an individual, you have to have safety embedded. We did that into the entire community. So if you embed that, then the community will start moving forward. They'll start their healing journey. And once they move forward, the education level will go up. The number of crimes will go down. The number of calls of police services will go down. The healing happens for the individual. Women don't have to sleep with baseball bats behind their doors anymore. The elders can go out and walk. Children can play. So they're moving now along the economic spectrum. They have a beautiful administration building there. They hosted the Toronto Blue Jays Foundation. They're thriving. They're thriving in economic development with their people, with their citizens. So they're moving along the economic gap, Peter, to contribute to the resource industry, to contribute to the local economy, to become independently sustainable. Mm-hmm. That's what this agreement means. That's why our elders went to Ottawa. It's written in here. They wrote this 50 years ago, and here we are today. We can do this. We can do this, and our communities are doing this. We're moving along. I was really fortunate. Thank you very much. And it is. It's really important because we're healing our communities one step at a time.
The word reconciliation has been tossed around quite a bit, particularly around government. What does economic reconciliation mean to you, not only through your business, but also for us as Yukoners?
Oh, I love that. Economic reconciliation. Economic reconciliation is really important. And in order for economic reconciliation to happen, we have to reconcile with ourselves first. Our communities have to reconcile with ourselves. Our nations have to reconcile with ourselves. And then we can start reconciliation with others and the rest of the country. Because we have to come to terms to understand what has happened so we can move forward in history. And that's important. You know, the healing journey is reconciliation, and that's important for every community. And once we get there, and we are getting there, what am I saying? We are there, is that reconciliation also needs to come from the other side. It's not always us that needs to reconcile.
That's right.
You know, I think Canada, Yukon, our federal partners, other agencies need to look and identify ways to reconcile with us. And if that means moving forward with Chapter 22, let's do it.
For sure. When it comes to inspiration, obviously I could feel your passion, and I'm sure the room is full of it now. But I mean, in regards to what motivates you every day to get up, to not only help recreate the world that we live in, but also to motivate others, where do you get your passion from? And what maybe an individual that you've grown up, you mentioned Peter Jenkins as a very strong business person that influenced you. Is there a person or someone that helps not only maybe your Dekeon Cow, your creator, or just that's who you are? I'm not sure in regards to where do you find your motivation every day?
I think you said money earlier, Peter. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
No, it's not. You know what? It's, you know, I spent the first 21 years in policing, and you know, it wasn't the economic passion, you know, and what it is what gets me up and going every day is you know what, acknowledging, you know, honestly, acknowledging those historical impacts and colonization and what happened to our people that put us in a place where it's taken us so many years to try and figure out how to move ahead. And I just want to be one of those people that give individuals and everybody that opportunity. And by doing that, Peter, is I help people start businesses. You know, I've had 5 businesses already on the go. You know, right now, the biggest one I have is House of Wolf and Associates, and that does community safety for our communities, and also does the Community Safety Officer program, which I have to say is in 4 communities right now.
Nice.
I just started another business. It's called First People's Coffee. And this is really interesting, Peter. It's not about the coffee. Coffee's good, don't get me wrong. The reason I did this is because I wanted to find a way to find reconciliation. We talked about that. And how do we reconcile in a good way? And I thought, over coffee. So what I did was, I got an artist, the late Mark Preston, a Tlingit artist, citizen of Kwalin and Dunn First Nation, to design my bags. Because I wanted to acknowledge our First Nation artists in the Yukon. So we got 3 bags, the light, medium, and dark rose. And I said, first of all, I'm going to grab the attention of the audience. But what it truly is a platform for education. I wanted to educate people in Yukon and Canada, around the world, about our Indigenous culture, our language, our history. And how do I do that, Peter? What I did was, I put a QR code on the back of the coffee bag. And if you open that QR code, it opens up the information about the artist, about First People's Coffee. It educates people about our language. It could be your traditional territory. It could be about the Han people. It could be about the Southern Shoshone. So what it is, it opens up the QR code to educate people about our traditions, our culture, and our language. And that's what I wanted to do with that. And it's a good way. It's a good way to sit down and reconcile over a good cup of coffee by buying the First People's Coffee, and a way to channel education about who we are as Yukon First Nations and First Nations across Canada to be proud of.
For sure. And to do it in a way that's safe, right? It is an opportunity for them to check in. And for the elders that may not know what a QR code is.
QR code is, you know, those, here's the quickest way to explain this. You ever go to those restaurants now and they say, oh, where's your menu? It says there's a little thing there, square thing, and that you have to take your iPhone, it opens up and the story projects out, like the menu comes up. Well, that's what happens on a QR code is you open it up with your iPhone and the story opens up. So it's amazing. So I can change that QR code and share the information of the Han people, and then I can take it and share it with the Cree people, and their information will come up. So it's like this story in this little code, QR code. It opens up with your phone, and you will learn about. It's like open up a web page.
Yes.
That's what it is, like open up a web page, and it will educate you about our Yukon First Nations people. We could talk about, I can put Council Yukon First Nations there to educate the world about what we are and who we are here today. So that little QR code in the back of the coffee bag opens up to a web page to tell the wonderful story that we're talking about. And I was just saying, First People's Coffee was another business, but I started Geez, I got too many business on to go to when I'm busy. But another business called Trocheck Energy. And it's an innovative way to talk about green hydrogen, Peter, to replace the carbon emissions. And I'm also exploring that within our traditional territory. So we're always looking for clean green energy. It's another innovative business that I'm looking at. I also supported the creperie. I helped the individuals get that business off the ground. Foot North Reflexology is another business. I've supported many other entrepreneurs here in Yukon, and I'd love to continue to do that because community economic development. I want to remind us, what I see is that there is for-profit development corporations, and that's great. But what I channel myself into is community economic development, because that gives back to the community, gives back to the shareholders. It gives back to the individuals, so you can build and continue to build the houses that we need in our communities. To continue to build the youth centers that we need in our communities, to provide funding and top up for education for our individuals and citizens in our communities. That's the importance of community economic development.
Awesome stuff. And if you're just tuning in to Shona FM or Facebook Live, we are the 50th anniversary speaker series, and we have Gina Nagano live here at the Kwalendun. Just in regards to advice for the next generation, the younger generation that want to take parts of their culture or parts of the land and incorporate it into their business plan, what types of advice do you offer?
Do it. Just do it.
There you go.
Yes, because you know what? This is important, because don't be afraid. It's your traditional territory. Step up, push those boundaries, because you know what? If anything, we need to step up more and support our young people. We need to support our entrepreneurs. We need to do that. We need to educate them. We need to not cap things like everybody does. Open up the cap wells, open up the lid, and give them whatever support they need. The mentorship support, the education support. We need to continue to provide that to the young people to move forward. Mentorship is really important for our young people. Allow them, empower them to do the good work that they need to do. But right now, when the connection to the land is, we need to get into more ecotourism. That's the connection to the land. We are land stewards. That's who we are. We know our traditional territories. We know where to harvest and not to harvest. We know where these traditional landmarks are. We are the best land stewards of our land. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, for example, for ecotourism, you look at northern Tashoni Adventures, where Terry Lee Isaac is a good example. There's boot camps over at the Innovation Hub at the Yukon that assist us to learn how to start a business. We need more of those. Put them out there. First Nation governments, I encourage you, do more in the economic development side. Do more for our young people to learn economic development. We will prosper through economic development once we heal our communities to move forward.
Oh, I appreciate those words. And there's institutions such as Den'na Ventures, Business Development Canada. Can you give us some feedback in regards to some of these programs that are meant to help small business and entrepreneurs? Are they working for our people or working against us? No offense to DNV and others, but I mean, we need to know, because these programs have been around for 35 years, but we don't see the influx of business people coming to the table. Is it a lack of support or the ability to take that risk?
You know, I think it's a bit of both. Honestly, Peter, when I first applied to Dene Ventures many years ago, I was really intimidated. I was intimidated because what the heck did I really know about finances and numbers? You know, what did I know about a business plan? You know, I had no idea, you know, how to do the business plan. They said, well, can you do a business plan? I go, okay. You know, you need a financial forecast. Okay. You know, those are challenging and those are intimidating. I think what we need to do is have more DNVs situated in our communities, so individuals and youth can sit down with them and have it explained. I can say, you know, whether I was a young person or even as an adult, those are still intimidating. You know, we need to open those doors so they're not. We need healthier, I think, communications as to, you know, if we submit applications into a DNV, when will we hear back from them? What is the process? You know, what is the understanding? You know, I've applied for DNV and they've been supportive in the past for my business, but you know what? It's almost like you need some sort of a post-secondary education to understand the complexities of those applications. We shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't have to do that. You know, we just need mentorship and support. You know, we need more Dene Ventures of the world, you know, or to contribute to our economy, to contribute to our individuals. And it shouldn't be intimidating. It should not be intimidating.
Just in regards to COVID, obviously it has affected us in many ways. In regards to your business, how has COVID affected you during the period of 3 years? Has it made you better or made you more nimble or more ability to be flexible, if you will?
Those are really good questions. And I when I started Foot North Reflexology, Peter,
which is located in the Yukon Inn Plaza, by the way, at the same time. So
I'm not an owner of it anymore. So I sold the business. Okay. That's one thing. Always have an exit strategy. No. Yeah, is that you know, and that's where I say I want to be, you know, thankful to Dene Ventures and Canada or the federal government who supported our small businesses here in Yukon. It wasn't just my business, but many businesses where they supported us financially to keep the business afloat. And honestly, if it wasn't for that support, the business wouldn't exist. And you know, the Prime Minister was here recently, and you know, he spoke about economic development and how much the government and the federal government contributed to the North to keep many of our businesses afloat. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have thriving businesses. We wouldn't be able to continue on today. So the Foot North is one of the main businesses that started during the pandemic. The rest started towards the end of the pandemic. So, but honestly, I just want to say thank you, you know, to the government and to the Yukon and DNV, that Dene Ventures that did step up at the time to support us through that process.
For sure. In your own words, economically, how much has our lives changed as First Nations since 1973 from the business perspective?
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I'll tell you how much our lives have changed is that we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the economic side of it. You know, it's economics, I say, is continued to the well-being of our people. It is the future. If you know, like when you look at many businesses, you know, you look at Apple, you can look at Google, you know, you can look at your own business. It's that thriving economy. Our world is built upon economics, you know, and that's important. We have to remember that, because one of the things that we have here in Yukon is this beautiful, pristine country. And you know, there's better ways of, I'm going to say better ways, alternative ways of thriving through ecotourism as it is opposed to taking resource industry and taking the gold out of our grounds, or you know, and so we have to think differently. We don't always have to think that we're going to thrive on the gold in our backyards or resources in our backyards. Really, we have such a beautiful country that we can thrive more around ecotourism or the tourism industry. We got people from all over the world coming here wanting to see the pristine country, but at the same time, we are digging it up in our backyards. You know, and the good thing, you know, is that through, you know, through our chapters and our agreements is that, you know, we are responsible as land stewards now to not just allow anybody to come in and dig in our backyards. And thank goodness for those, again, that negotiated our agreements to have people that allow us to take care of the land. And it's important to continue to be the land stewards of our land.
For sure. And you talked about the economy and the significance to us as human beings. Since 1492, here in North America in particular, we've been impacted by global domination. And if you look at the commodities that the people that were looking for, you know, when you talk about the riches of the day, the spices, a lot of that was as well as slavery, which was the basis of the means of the papals that were not only instructed by the churches, but also obviously with Columbus and others that were seeking fame and fortune. Recently, in the last 2 years, the government released the First Nation procurement policy under Chapter 22, as you mentioned. The procurement policy is there to help businesses, First Nation businesses, find that place in equality. And the reason why we're talking about equality is because, as you mentioned, our people have never had that ability, let alone the ability to work in this territory till 1960. So the ability for us now to create that wealth and generate it, how important is instruments or tools such as the First Nation procurement policy to us as First Nations?
You know, I think it's, the procurement policy, I kind of struggle with that. Because we shouldn't, as First Nations people within our own traditional territories, have to have government development a procurement policy. We should be just equal at the table and be considered as First Peoples of our traditional territory in terms of employment, in terms of economic opportunity, you know, but thankfully we do have it. You know, if that's a way that we need to, you know, a policy that we need now to support us, then let's do it. You know, and what I like about that is that it allows for the opportunity for us to partner with other non-government or non-First Nation business entities to come together. Because really, as all Yukoners, we should all be working together for the health and well-being of our territory. You know, and I think, you know, if we have to put a procurement policy in place to do good work, to do take care of our land, then that's important because that never happened in the past. And if that means that we're going to utilize the procurement policy to ensure that we're going to protect our lands, our waters, our air, you know, then that's important. Because that means government is stepping up to acknowledge that. Because when I hear procurement policy and partnering with businesses, what I hear is they're now taking care of our land. They're taking care of our traditional territory. They're taking care of our people by partnering with us and acknowledging that we are here.
From your perspective, just over the last 50 years, what have we learned that will help us now into the next 50 years, particularly when it comes to economic development?
I think we've learned a lot, you know, over time with economic development. And by doing this is that many of our First Nation communities here have our own economic development corporations. Some of our communities have taken this step to community economic development corporations. I now sit as a board of director for Trondheim Community Development Corporation, you know, so that's really important, you know, that we continue to be in that area. And for the next 50 years, you know, you talk about is, you know, this is a gift of an opportunity that our trailblazers and our elders have put for us to acknowledge, respect, and take care of the next 50 years in a good way, where we will become, you know, the #1 led champions in terms of community economic development by leading it in a very good way.
In regards to creating your own personal plan and your own economic development plan for yourself, what is some of the goals and aspirations that you would like to not only reach as an individual entrepreneur, but also some of the what are some of the forecasts that you have in your future going forward?
I'm trying to retire. Yeah. I think for me, in terms of my own personal journey with community economic development, is I'm working with my own First Nation government right now, and I'm looking for alternatives to green energy. And we all know that alternatives to green energy, a healthier future, for our people is important. And I'm working on a project currently with Trondek Wichin on alternative green energy. That we would potentially provide up to, if this project goes ahead and is supported by government. First, it's important to get that social license from our community, and thank you, Rick McLean, for teaching me that language is very important, Peters, because if you're going to do any work, and I encourage everybody, First Nation, non-First Nation, if you're going to do any work in our communities, get that social license before you go to government, before you go to federal government, before you go to Yukon government, because you need the direction from your elders, from your community. And once you have that blessing, that road is open towards prospering economically. And to me, if we can do more in the green sector for the future of our children, for the future of our people, and not even future, I'm not talking 50, 60 years from now, Peter. In terms of green energy, carbon reduction emissions, we have to do that now.
That's right.
With global warming happening, we see it everywhere with, the emergency preparedness around climate mitigation. We have to take this seriously. I'm doing that. Within the next 10 years, I'd love to be a big part of the green energy solutions here in the Yukon.
Well, good luck with that, and I appreciate your mentality and when it comes to not only protecting the environment, but also doing it for the better interest of our next generation. From a personal perspective, if you could pen a letter to Chief Elijah Smith, what would it say?
If I could pen a letter to Chief Elijah Smith, I would say thank you.
Oh.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do the work I'm doing, and I just want to say also, on behalf of many people in my generation, thank you, because I couldn't imagine 50 years ago. I was looking at some of the typewriters out there and stuff and the telephone thing and then going, wow, like they didn't have the opportunity we have today to just jump on an airplane and go and lobby before the government and find a lawyer to support you. They did not have that. And for them to see the vision 50 years ago to the vision today is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And they brought that vision 50 years ago to today. And that's prosperity. That is a big thank you. And there's individuals in this room that are, whether they're part of this delegation or have family that part of that delegation, but my life to them, and thank you, because you've opened that opportunity not just for me but for all Yukoners and for all our First Nation communities. Thank you, because you've opened that, and today your vision is living today.
Exactly. And to wrap things up, where can people get your coffee?
First People Coffee, 7 Roundel Road, Whitehorse, Yukon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter.
Very much, Gina. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. I appreciate your passion and want to wish you the best of luck in business. So,
thank you.